My name's Emily Collins. I'm a senior at Pontiac Township High School in Pontiac, Illinois. It's central Illinois. We're a pretty small farming community. So I've kind of been around the land my entire life, grown up around it, and it kind of like helped me focus more, I guess, on our goal, which is land conservation. And it's helped us bring in so many different perspectives because we already have those connections.
And I'm Keegan Hall. I'm currently a senior as well at Pontiac Township High School. And I'm pretty similar to Emily. I think we've both grown up here our whole lives. So we're pretty familiar with the land. We're a very small, close-knit community. Yeah, I don't know, at least for me, I found that like I didn't know too much about like conservation and like the land around us before we got into Ritter's class, but I found out and I've learned so much like of what we can do and like about like around us, like just from like being in his class and talking with different people. And that's kind of just what made me like realize, oh, we need to do something because it's like really bad.
So Keegan and I wouldn't be in the spot we're in today if we didn't have help from so many different outside sources. We've talked to people at the international level, we've talked to people at the national level, and we've talked to people at our state level and everywhere in between where it might fall in. We've talked to people with like Mr. George Sweeting and Mr. Brian O'Donnell from the Campaign for Nature. Mr. Sweetie is actually in Germany, and Mr. O'Donnell heads up the Campaign for Nature in the United States. We've talked to Mr. Ted Weber and his boss, Miss Jamie Rappaport Clark from the Defenders for Wildlife, which is another international organization. We've had our previous classmates, Clarny and Lauren Durham, who actually like got the ball rolling last year during their school year that helped push us in the direction we've decided to go on. We've talked to state senators like Senator Craig Wilcox, Senator Dave Kaler, and Senator Jason Barrickman, and representatives, especially Representative Tom Bennett. Those four people have been instrumental in helping us draft a piece of legislation. We've talked to environmentalists like Jen Walling and Elliot Clay from the Illinois Environmental Council, and Chris Young from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, and Kevin Semlo from the Farm Bureau. And then we've also talked to students outside of the United States. We've got another partner who we've been working very closely with. Her name is Emily Bensavenga. She's a senior at Ramstein American High School in Ramstein, Germany. We've been talking to students from the Grand River Preparatory High School in Michigan. Those students and their teacher, Mr. Jordan Schmeeds, have been super helpful, and we've helped them get started on similar things that we've been doing. And even today, we just talked to Josh Romero, who is an independent freelance music video producer who's helping us actually produce a music video for a song we wrote for 30 by 30, which is the goal we've committed ourselves to.
So like Emily mentioned, we didn't originally start this initiative. Previous students, Claire Nee and Lauren Durham, like originally got the ball rolling on this. They came up with this idea by talking with Mr. Ritter's daughter, actually, Bailey, and they came up with an idea about wanting to protect 30% of land and water by 2030. So that's how they came up with that idea, by just talking with her. And they eventually wrote their own piece of legislation, and theirs was an act to redouble conservation. And they held a summit discussing 30 by 30 with students from 10 different schools around the area. And then they eventually testified in front of the Senate Environment Committee. And then their Senate resolution became law unanimously.
So Keegan and I got involved in the project through Mr. Ritter's environmental earth science class. In his class, they do a project called the Mycelia Project. For those of you that don't know, mycelia is actually a group of like interconnected, not cells, but networks that help fungus grow and thrive in their environment. And the Mycelia Project is a group of students who work from the ground up to help inspire and provide motivation, hard work, and innovative ideas that are going to make huge impacts on their community, on their environment, on the world in general. So Keegan and I, for our Mycelia project, we decided to jump on the 30 by 30 campaign, which is protecting 30% of land and water by the year 2030. We were inspired by this project. We were inspired to do this project by Claire and Lauren's work last year during their class year. We decided we couldn't let something as important as this project just like stop because their school year did. And then also in Mr. Ritter's class, we are a part of the Operation Endangered Species, which is in charge of reintegrating alligator snapping turtles into the Illinois wild. This was a previously extinct species, but thanks to the work of Mr. Ritter and all of his classes, we've been able to release 527 turtles back into the Illinois wild. And we raise these turtles, we measure them every week, we feed them, and then we eventually release them. We realize that it's just kind of a huge need because their land is disappearing, so we have to help them in any way we can. And then another inspiration we have is this Native American proverb that actually rings true for us and we use every time we present, every time we start writing things out. It's kind of like the core message for us. It goes, "We didn't inherit this world from our ancestors. We're borrowing it from our children." It's important for us to realize that the world, we may have got it in whatever shape it's in, but it's our responsibility to make it a better place for not only our generation, but for our children and for our children's children and so forth. If we don't act now, it's just going to be too late. So this is what we're doing. In Illinois, there are currently 965,352 acres conserved, which that sounds like a large number, but it's actually only 3% of the Illinois land. So we know we've got a lot of work to do, but we're here to do it. And we hope that everybody else is willing to jump on and help us make this happen.
And Article 11 of the Illinois State Constitution mandates that it is legislative responsibility and duty of each person to provide and maintain a healthful environment for the benefit of this and future generations, and the General Assembly shall provide by law for the implementation and enforcement of this public policy. And Section 2 is the right of each individual. So each person has the right to a healthful environment and can enforce this right against any party, governmental or private, through appropriate legal proceedings.
Well, you're probably wondering why we're quoting our state constitution to you guys right now. But that's because it is how we built our piece of legislation. So Keagan and I actually wrote a piece of legislation. This is the first kind of legislation, not only in our state, but actually in the United States as a whole. Nobody's ever done anything like this. We are creating what's called the Illinois 30 by 30 Conservation Task Force. This task force is made up of environmentalists, government officials, state legislators, and everybody in between again. And their purpose is solely just to get together and make recommendations to the General Assembly, which is our state legislature, regarding the conservation of Illinois land and water and how we can make those strategies happen in Illinois in order to make the goal of 30% by the year 2030. It's an international goal. The 30 by 30 campaign is an international goal. And the reason this has to do with the climate action that we're talking to today is because conserving 30% of land and water by 2030 is helping to protect biodiversity, and it helps actually mitigate the climate change, the climate crisis that is currently going on in our world.
So we also, Emily briefly talked about the task force we have created. Some of the members we have on that task force include the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, 2 members from the House of Representatives, 2 members of the Senate, Illinois Department of Agriculture, Illinois Environmental Protection Agency, Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, the Illinois Department of Transportation, Statewide Environmental Association, a Statewide Agricultural Association, Illinois Institution of Higher Education, our teacher, Mr. Paul Ritter, and us. We feel like that is important for us to be on it as well.
So Keagan and I have been working on this piece of legislation for a year now. We recently testified on behalf of our legislation in front of our state administrative committee. And during that committee, it actually passed with 8 yeas, 0 nays, and no present votes, so it passed unanimously from committee. We went into that committee meeting only having one sponsor, which is our chief sponsor, Representative Bennett, who's a Republican. And by the end of the committee meeting, we had 4 other people jump on as sponsors. We had our Illinois Environmental Caucus jump on with their full support. And since then, I actually think we've had even more people jump on to sponsor our bill and help us get it past the House of Representatives and the Senate eventually. Today, actually, we got to talk to a film producer. We wrote a song for the 30 by 30 because we want to keep the youth involved. It's really important, and what better way to grab the youth's attention than by making a rap song and posting it everywhere imaginable. So we're talking with him right now. We're making a music video. What else have we done, Keagan? We've done, I can't even remember everything.
Yeah, the video's a big part, and then we wrote an article for what's called Audubon. It's a magazine, like a local one. When did we turn that in? Like
Yeah.
a couple months ago.
It's it's been kind of busy, but we're super excited. We're doing so many different things because this is really important to the both of us. And you know, Mr. Ritter may say that we're the only ones doing this right now, but he doesn't give himself enough credit. He helps us along the way. He's our biggest supporter and our biggest helper right now. We're just so thankful to be able to sit here and talk to you guys and hopefully help you guys do something similar in your own, I guess, communities to get started. This is such an important issue, and we wanna help as much as we can. So please feel free to ask us as many questions.